Let's talk about that golden age between 19 and 30, the roaring 20s. This is probably the healthiest point of your life, where your back hasn't begun to blow out yet and your metabolism is still decently high. It is probably also the point that you've been waiting on your entire life as well, because you're finally starting to get treated like an adult from your parents and you're ready to leave that home nest to take the world by storm. Even though there's a ton of things to get into in terms of preparing yourself to be as successful as possible in your 20s, let's take a second to talk about finances, because I believe that your 20s are the most critical phase in your life where you can set yourself up in the best way possible financially for the future. This is because in your 20s you can afford to take the most risks while having the least to lose, and also your time horizon is incredibly long. So if you do make some mistakes in your 20s, you have a little bit of time to fix that before the next golden years, which is retirement. So I want to take this video to talk about the top 7 financial or money related goals that you should be striving to complete in your 20s. Now obviously this is not an all-inclusive list, but as a 22-year-old myself, these are some of the financial goals that I strive to complete in my young life, and I thought it would be cool to share those with you as well. So with that being said, let's get started. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Anfernee McLemore, and the number one goal in my opinion that you should be striving to complete in your 20s is to educate yourself on personal finance. I truly believe that before you can get into saving, budgeting, or investing in Bitcoin,
you guys smell that? That's Bitcoin booming right now!
You must first educate yourself on personal finance. And there are an absolute ton of ways to do that in the 21st century. Just a few years ago when I started to educate myself on personal finance, the avenue that I chose personally happened to be reading books. I read an absolute ton of personal finance books, and the one that made the biggest difference on me was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I talk about that a little bit in some of my previous videos, so I'm not going to cover it in depth here, but that single book basically flipped my way of thinking in terms of how I was going to spend my financial future. It taught me that I needed to invest in assets rather than liabilities and stuff, and that I needed to be really intentional in terms of what I was purchasing in order to set myself up in the best way possible for my financial future. So if you want to check that book out for yourself, I will put an Amazon link in the description below so that you can get a copy for yourself if you're interested in reading it. However, moving on to the second financial goal that you should strive to achieve in your 20s, and that is by creating a budget for yourself. Early on, budgeting to me was always sort of a taboo thing. I thought that as long as I had enough money in my checking account to cover my purchase, then I was pretty much good to go. But this eventually led me to a few overdrafts in my account and being dead broke in the middle of some months. And that is when I started taking creating a budget really seriously. My personal favorite avenue in terms of creating and maintaining a budget is to do it through Google Sheets. But I know a lot of my friends who use personal capital and Mint in order to maintain their budgets as well. As I say in a lot of my videos, whatever way you like to do a budget, just make sure you get a budget created. Make sure you can list your income and your expenses and you know exactly where your money is going, because once you do this, you'll be able to do the next 5 steps way easier than if you didn't know where your money was coming from and where it was going. So if you're like me and you wanted to create a budget using that Google spreadsheet, I would recommend you use 1 or 2 columns to list your income, and then a few columns to the right of that list every single expense that you have each month. Even if it's a $1 iCloud subscription, list every single expense so you know how much money you have left over to invest and do other things with each and every month. And by creating a budget, it segues very well into the number 3 financial goal that you should try to achieve in your 20s, which is building an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund can come in many different shapes and sizes. Depending on your personal situation and your expenses, your emergency fund might need to be a lot bigger than a peer's emergency fund. But when first getting started with building this emergency fund, I think a good number that we could all shoot for is $1,000. Having a $1,000 emergency fund can help in a lot of instances in terms of if your car broke down and you needed an emergency repair, if you needed to go into an emergency room and pay that high copay, if you're in an accident, or if you're thinking about getting a new job, having at least $1,000 saved can provide a little bit of a cushion just in case life happens in some instances. So by creating that budget in the last step, you'll be able to see exactly how much you can contribute to your emergency fund in order to build it as fast as possible. And once you reach $1,000, I definitely wouldn't stop there. I believe that the ultimate emergency fund that you should have is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. This will protect you if you get laid off for another global pandemic or any other crazy situation, and it'll also provide you some peace of mind knowing that if anything crazy happened, you can at least cover your bills for 3 to 6 months. And then the next step after building up that emergency fund to a good amount is to begin getting out of bad debt. But what is bad debt exactly? Well, in my unprofessional opinion, bad debt is any debt you carry with an interest rate above 4%. This will include every single credit card that you have, most auto loans, and even a student loan or two. And the reason why these types of debt are so bad is because the interest absolutely eats you alive. And even though you're making some pretty high payments, most of that is just going to the interest and you're never really paying down the principal, which is debt as fast as possible. Depending on how stable your income is, I would even put this before making an emergency fund in some cases. But at the end of the day, you should find a method that works for you in terms of paying back your your bad debt. Whether it's the snowball method where you pay the smallest amount first, and then after you pay that off, you use that payment to go towards a slightly larger one, and then you pay that off and a slightly larger one after that, and after that. Or you can use the avalanche method where you can pay the biggest amount first or the highest interest amount first, and then work your way down from there. Whatever method you choose, just simply attack your debt so that you can get out of those high interest payments and you'll be able to breathe a little freer financially. And this actually segues pretty well into the fifth financial goal that you should work towards. And that goal is to start monitoring and increasing your credit score. When I was just getting started into adulthood, no one taught me the importance of having good credit. No one taught me how much money having good credit could save. And if you're watching this video, then I'm guessing no one taught you as well. But I can tell you now that having a good credit score can help you out in so many ways in terms of saving you a lot of money on interest, getting approved for better loans, and other things of the sort. And the way that you can begin becoming familiar with your credit score is by using sites like Credit Karma or other personal finance apps that use a soft inquiry in order to tell you your credit score. And once you find out what your credit score is, you can then work backwards from that in order to find ways to improve it. If your credit score is being dragged down by having too many high balances, then work towards paying those balances down. If your credit score is being dragged down by having too many hard inquiries, then write a letter to some of those companies to see if they can take some of those hard inquiries off. If you don't have good credit simply from not having enough credit, which is possible, you can apply to take out a new car in order to start building that credit history. As I say often, whatever the case may be, just work towards getting better in terms of your credit score. And once you do that, you'll be ready to move on to the sixth step, which is to start learning about investing. Now, I didn't say actually investing quite yet, but it's to start learning about investing. And as I said earlier in this video, how I like to learn and how I learned about investing was by reading books. And the importance of learning how to invest in your 20s is because you have that very long time horizon where you can ride out the ups and downs of the stock market and anything like that. One of the books that taught me the most about investing was Financial Freedom by Grant Sabatier. And basically that book is all about finding your financial freedom number. How much money do you need to have invested in order to retire and not work another day for the rest of your life? And it also teaches you about a lot of different investment vehicles, how to plan for taxes, how to start a side hustle, and how that would affect your investment income. A lot of different things. And basically the whole point is to start to learn about investing early so that you can start investing smart early. Whether if you want to be a conservative investor and have a portfolio full of ETF and mutual funds, or if you want to be an aggressive investor and go all in on Bitcoin, learning about all of the different avenues will help you in the long run. So watch some more YouTube videos, read some books, take an online course or two, but learn what you want to do early so that you can start early and then get that money compounded over time. And that leads me to the seventh financial goal that you strive to achieve in your 20s, and that one is maxing out a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account that allows you to contribute after tax dollars and then allow that money to grow tax-free as long as you would like it to grow. This is such a powerful tool because of the fact that the money can grow tax-free. So if you contribute $1 to it and it grows to $1 million, once you're 59 and a half years old, you can take that whole $1 million and not have to pay any capital gains taxes to the government. This type of account is so powerful that the government puts a limit on how much you can contribute to it every single year. And as of 2020/2021, that limit is $6,000 a year. And also a Roth IRA can double as a savings account as well, because if you do contribute $6,000 to your Roth IRA and you then need that money later in the year, you can withdraw your initial investment of $6,000 without any penalties because you contributed that with after tax money. Now, if you start to dip into your gains, you will then be taxed and penalized for that. But if you only want to withdraw your initial investment, you can do that no problem. So as a person in their 20s or even in their teens, you should start contributing to a Roth IRA as soon as possible. I'm not going to talk about much about what you should buy in that Roth IRA because that is up to you. But open the Roth IRA on any platform that you choose, whether it's WeBull, M1 Finance, or TD Ameritrade, or Charles Schwab, or anything like that. But open that account and start putting money into it once you have your emergency fund saved, and then allow that money to build your wealth over time as it grows tax-free. But with all that being said, those are the 7 financial goals that I'm striving to achieve in my 20s and that you should strive to achieve in your 20s as well. If you found any kind of value in this video, I would really appreciate it if you smash that like button for your boy, as it really does help my channel out and allows me to reach a larger audience. Also, if you're like me and a fan of free money, WeBull is doing an absolutely insane promotion right now where if you just sign up and deposit $100, you will get 4 free stocks. That's insane just for signing up and depositing money, and that, as I said, is free money. However, as I said, I really hope you found value in this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one, guys. Peace.